So here we see that the IP address of node 2 is 101. And if we go back here to the file, we'll go down and we'll see that the IP address on the ACK that CUCM sent the phone A, that's the IP address that's going to be the music on hold server. Hey everyone, in this video I'll be talking about a call hold scenario where a phone calls another phone and one of them will put the call on hold and then resume the call later and then they'll hang up. While the one party is on hold, they're going to be connecting to the CUCM as CUCM will work as a music on hold server. And we'll take a look at how that music on hold server gets allocated for the phone. We'll take a look at how the media gets established, between the two phones and then also between the music on hold server and the phone that's on hold. But as always, before we get into actually looking at the traces, we want to have a better understanding of what we might see in the traces so that we can follow it better. And over here at this website that I really like, which is written based off of the RFC, we can click on call hold and see that Alice, who will be at 1000, Bob, who's at 2000, so I'll call it phone A, and phone B, 1000, 2000. Phone A sends an invite into the proxy sends a 100 trying back to phone A. This will be early offer because Cisco phones send early offer. CUCM will basically consume the SDP temporarily and send a delayed offer invite out to phone B. Phone B will send back 180 ringing. CUCM will send that over to phone A. Eventually, phone B will pick up the call and we'll see a 200 OK. When that 200 OK comes back, it will have its SDP. And what's different about CUCM versus this diagram is that right here, CUCM will send the ACK over to phone B, ACKing that 200 OK, and the SDP which came out on this invite will go out on an ACK here. The CUCM will forward the 200 OK and its SDP to phone A, and that will be ACKed as well. This ACK that we see in the diagram won't actually be in the traces. And now that we have the 200 OKs and the ACKs being sent across, we'll have RTP going from phone A to phone B and phone B to phone A. Eventually, and I set my call up the same way that this diagram is, eventually phone B will put the call on hold and the media will get torn down between phone A and phone B. But something that we don't see here is the media. There'll be media between phone where phone A and the MOH server will establish media together, right? But it will be send only because the music on hold server doesn't need to receive audio. It only needs to send it, and it will be sending the Cisco hold music, which phone A will be receiving. Later on, phone B will take the call off hold. And phone A's media will be torn down with the MOH server. Once that media is torn down, phone A and phone B will renegotiate media, and eventually the RTP streams will be reestablished here. And later on, phone A will hang up the call, and the total call, everything will end. I have written that up here, where we see phone A calls phone B. Phone B hits the hold button, placing A on hold. The new call flow will look like this. Phone A talking to the MOH server. And the final call will be phone A talking to phone B again. That's because phone B will have pressed the resume button. And now that we've looked at the call flow and we have an understanding of what's going to happen, we can actually go into reading the traces. The first thing I'm going to do is access the directory where the traces are, and I'll copy this. I'll go back to JEdit and hit Control-Shift-F since that's what I have set up as my soft key to search in directories. And like we've done on other videos, what I'm going to do is dd equals and then I'm actually not going to put in the full number here. Part of why I didn't do it is because we can see that there's two different calls in here. One that was at 11:49 and one that was at 11:51. If we go back to the call info, we know that the call we want is 11:51. Right, so in a production environment, it's very important to know the timestamp of the call that you should be looking at. Otherwise, you might have 15 different calls where 1,000 called, 2,000. And looking at 15 different calls isn't too bad, but who really wants to do that when you know there's only one call that you need to look at? So knowing the timestamp is very important. And right here, 11:51 is the one we want to look at. All right, so I'm going to start highlighting. I'm going to highlight my number 1,000 here. I'm going to highlight my number 2,000 as well. And I'm going to start marking this up. So we have the digit analysis here. I gotta be careful, save it. And if we scroll down a little bit, we'll get to the point where we see this digit analysis wait DMP response. That is a line that we want. I'm gonna try to get through this as quick as I can since it's something we've done in all the other videos. I'm going to highlight my CI1. I'll highlight the CDCC as well. Now I'm going to search on my CI1 and find CI2. Right here is where CI1 and 2 are being associated. Okay, we'll highlight CI2. For the flow of the video, I'm actually going to search on CI2 first and get the SIP signaling from that side of the house. All right, here we go. We got some SIP signaling here. I'm actually going to highlight this, and we'll highlight the SIP call ID. All right, so let's first do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, initial invite to phone B. We see the 100 trying from phone B. We get the 180 ringing from phone B. I'm not going to mark that up. We get the 200 OK. That's a fairly significant message, so I'll mark that up. And we have the ACK going from CUCM out to phone B, so I'll mark that as well. Even though I'm saying initial 200 OK, initial ACK, initial this, initial that, this might be the only invite that we see going out to phone B. This might be the only ACK that we see going to phone B, but I'm just putting initial because it's part of the initial call. All right, so we've got that now. And here comes an incoming invite from phone B. This is where things start getting a little bit outside of what we've done in the other videos. So how do we know that this invite is actually placing the call on hold? If we go down to the call info header, you can see right here it's getting placed on hold. And if we go into the SDP, we can see that it's saying send only. Eventually, we're going to see the media get torn down completely, where things either have the audio ports will be all zeros, or sorry, the incoming IP address will be all zeros, or it may be really clear and have the A equals inactive. Rather than send, receive, receive only, or send only, it will say A equals inactive. All right, so now we have that incoming invite making the call go on hold. Let's take a look at what else is going on. CUCM sends back a 100 trying. And now CUCM sends its outgoing to the phone B a 200 OK. And let's see what this 200 OK is all about. IP is all zeros, and the A equals inactive. So this is where CUCM is basically telling the phone, I am no longer going to send you any media. You no longer send me any media. And, go do whatever it is you need to do while this call is on hold. Let's go ahead and mark that up. And let's see if the phone replies back with anything. The phone replies back with an ACK, acknowledging that the media is no longer going to be established. Now, the call should be on hold. We haven't looked at phone A side of everything yet. Phone A should be communicating with the music on hold server now, or at least in the process of establishing the media negotiation and figuring out what codec should we use. Should it be send receive? Should it be send only, receive only, or even A equals inactive, right? All of that stuff should be taking place between phone A and the music on hold server right now, because phone B is no longer in a call with phone A. Now, moving forward, while we look at the signaling from phone B, we have to understand that that's where we are in the call. And that phone B now is going to start working towards bringing the call back off hold. And then later on, we'll take a look at phone A's side of things. And then in the end of the video, we'll take a look at all of it together. And I'll probably even put it in chronological order in order to, really make sense of it and make it clear. Now let's move forward and take a look at what happens. Phone B, there's an incoming invite from phone B. So that means phone B sent CUCM an incoming invite. Let's go ahead and mark this up and then see what this invite's about. If we scroll down, we can see here, again in the call info header, this is where phone B is going to resume the call and take it off hold. So we'll add that to our notes. At this point, phone A should start getting its media torn down with the music on hold server, and the media negotiation is going to, take place again between phone A and phone B, just like it did in the initial call. And we'll take a look at all of that as well. Now let's go ahead and see how it all takes place. We're getting near the end. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 messages left to look at on the phone B side of the house. Here, CUCM sends a 100 trying back to phone B. Phone B, there's a 200 OK sent to phone B. And we can see this is where phone A's information is being sent to phone B. All right, we should have taken a look earlier at what phone A's IP address is, but this is phone A's IP address. And you can see phone B's already. And it looks like what they agreed upon was the Opus codec. So I'll go ahead and mark it up here that this is the 200 OK being sent to phone B in order to establish media with phone A. All right, we should see an ACK coming from phone B, incoming ACK from phone B, and that's just, closing out that message. And we could see an outgoing buy is sent to phone B. This is in line with what we saw up here, right? So invite sent to phone B, 180 ringing, 200 OK, and then an ACK sent to phone B. Media is established here. Phone B puts the call on hold, 200 OK back, and then an ACK. An invite in order to take it back off hold, 200 OK sent, and then an ACK, and then now a buy and a 200 OK. So phone B side looks, like what it should here. Let's go back over to JEdit, and I'll just mark this here. All right, now that the phone B side has been analyzed, I'm going to move on to analyzing the phone A side of it. The first thing I'll do is grab this CI and I'll modify it to be back to CI1. And let's see, I don't want to look at the call logs. We'll go down to find the first SIP call ID, or the first SIP message, right? And so I'm going to highlight phone 1's IP address, which I didn't do earlier. And now I'm going to search on the SIP call ID for the call that's with phone 1. Here we have the inbound invite. Let's go to this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Incoming invite from phone A. Here's the 100 trying, CallManager responding, and that 180 ringing that was sent in from phone B is now being forwarded on to phone A. Here's the 200 OK that was received from phone B being forwarded on to phone A. I'll go ahead and mark this. Phone A sends us an ACK. And here's an outgoing invite to phone A. It's going to look a little bit different than what we saw on the phone B side. Let's go ahead and mark this up. How do we know that the media is being torn down? Well, if we scroll down a little bit, we can see down here, all zeros, right? More importantly, we see A equals inactive. Now understand that we don't always get these little A equals whatever it might be, but it is very nice when we do get them. So the all zeros, if we see that, we know that media is getting torn down, right? So CUCM sends phone A an invite to tear down media for the hold. The phone sends back 100 trying, and then eventually a phone sends back a 200 OK. And I'll mark this. If we scroll down, we'll see A equals inactive. So this call is, the media between A and B is done, right? CUCM sends the phone an ACK. And just because that's a part of the diagram we looked at, I'm going to mark this. Let's see what happens next. Now there's an outgoing invite. This is going to be delayed offer, right? Because at this point, CUCM is basically querying the phone to say, hey, what's going to be your IP address, what's going to be your port, and what's going to be the codecs that you support. Right here, the phone says 100 trying, and then we get the 200 OK coming in from phone A. We see that the phone gives its port, it gives its IP address where it wants to receive media, and it gives all of its codecs that it supports. Or its capabilities, because it's not just codecs for media in there, there's other stuff like DTMF methods and whatnot. So I'll mark this now. At this point, CUCM should send the phone an ACK, which will have CUCM's information for the music on hold. Here we see the ACK. Let's scroll to the top of this real quick. What is the CUCM's IP address? So here we see that the IP address of node 2 is 101. And if we go back here to the file, we'll go down and we'll see that the IP address on the ACK that CUCM sent the phone A, that's the IP address that's going to be the music on hold server. Its port is 4000, and it agreed to use the G711 ULaw codec. We can also see here that it's send only. So the music on hold server only wants to send media. It does not want to receive any. I'll go ahead and mark this up now. So now we'll see what happens next. It should be an invite for when the media needs to be torn down. Let's see. That's exactly what's going on. Here's the invite for the media being torn down. And then phone A sends back a 100 trying, and eventually it sends back a 200 OK. And here you can see that the phone itself is sending A equals inactive, so the media is torn down. All right, that's the incoming 200 OK. And CUCM sends the phone an ACK. Now we see an outgoing invite. This is because phone B at this point has resumed the call. Right, so we'll do... Phone A sends a 100 trying, and eventually they'll send a 200 OK. This 200 OK will have their codecs and their IP address and everything else. This is the renegotiation of media that we talked about earlier. And now CUCM sends an ACK to phone A, and this is going to have the media that the two parties can agree upon, phone A and phone B. You can see here that phone B's IP address is where phone A should send media to, allowing us to tell that media is going to be point-to-point between phone A and phone B. Now we see a buy coming in from phone A, and this is where the call ends up getting torn down. There's a 200 OK to the buy here. I'll go ahead and mark it. All right, so now we have phone A's analysis done, and it's not going to look all too good because phone A is on node 1 and phone B is on node 2, so we're not going to see these things in chronological order, which is why later on, before I end this video, I'm going to go through and put all of these in the order that we can see it, in step by step. But again, what I said earlier is, how does that MOH server get allocated, right? We saw the SDP had an IP address for node 2, and we know that node 2 was the MOH server, but how was it identified before being provided to the phone? So we'll take a look at that now as well. Let's go back to CI1 right here, and I'm going to search on that. But whenever you want to narrow down where a particular side is having audio negotiated with another CI, you can do it like this. So if we do a find here, we see a lot of CI1 talking to CI2, but here eventually we see CI1 talking to CI3. This is one way that we can search for it and find the CI for the music on hold server. All right, you can see that that's the CI for the music on hold server. Let's see, where's the first, how many files do we have here? There's only one file. Here's the first time that we see the CI coming into play. And you can see that it's for the Media Resource Manager allocate MOH resource request. So this is the Media Resource Manager allocate MOH resource request. And that's where we first see this CI. So we know that that's going to be the CI for the call leg that is on the MOH server side of the house. Where'd that thing go? I lost it. There we go. I'm going to highlight that. But I first want to check something again. Here we go over here. When we search on that, let's go back up to where we can get the CDCC. Right here. Let's see what happens when we search on this CDCC. We can see here where the call setup request is being sent over to node 2. We can see the alerting indication. Here's where the call was answered, I believe, and they're going to establish the phone call. Here's where the hold indication occurs, letting us know that the call is getting put on hold. All right, so let's keep going down. Hold ACK request, going out to the other side. Okay, so here we go. MRM allocate MOH resource request. Right here. And we can see the CI there for the MOH server. All right, so let's take a little bit closer of a look to see how this MOH server becomes identified as the one to use. Allocate MOH resource request. And right here. You can see that the device name is MOH3, but if we looked up a little bit further, right here, DM multi-PID response, these are the different MOH servers that are being listed out as available to the phone based on its media resource group list, which all of these MOH servers are going to be in the default media resource group, which puts them into a state where they're available to all of the devices in the cluster. Right. Later on, I'm going to make a video series about how to set up a lab for studying and testing things. I'll talk more about these media resource groups and media resource group lists there. But as you can see, at the top of the list is MOH3. And MOH3 is the one that was selected. So if we go down a little bit further, we should see a response right here. Allocate MOH resource response. Here's the device name, MOH3. Let's go into the GUI and take a look to see where MOH3 is registered. Media resources, music on hold, server. And MOH is registered at 100, but its IP address is 101. So this is for the subscriber. It's registered with the publisher, which I find interesting. It must be because of the device pool. Let's take a look at the device pool. The device pool uses what CallManager group? Cisco. It uses the default CallManager group. So we'll take a look at that. It's only 100 in there. So that's why it's for the subscriber, but registered with the publisher. So anyway, that's how that music on hold server was allocated. There was a media resource manager request for a music on hold resource. And then when we looked at the list, MOH3 was at the top of the list. And you could see in the MRM allocate MOH resource response that it was MOH3 that was provided. All right, so now what I'll do next in the video is put everything in order, and then we'll take a look at it in chronological order. I went through and I made the signaling all in order, and that's a file that I'll probably upload to my GitHub repository. But rather than looking at it here, I remembered that there's a way that you can generate a call diagram from the traces itself using an application called Translator X. But I guess they've changed it to Cisco Collaboration Trace Translator. Still, though, if you look for Translator X, you'll find it online, and you can go ahead and download it. I don't recommend doing this if you actually want to learn how to read the traces and actually see, like, get an understanding of how SIP works and what SIP messages are taking place. However, it is a very useful tool to have. I might actually end up making some videos down the road that show how to make call filters and stuff like that. Now, let's go back and take a look at the call diagram that I created. Here we can see that everything is in order, right? We have the invite, 100 trying sent back, and this is between phone A and node 1. Node 2 reaches out to phone B, right? So the invite's forwarded there, 100 trying back, 180 ringing back from phone B. Node 2 sends it over to node 1, and node 1 sends it back to the phone. 200 OK, the call is answered, ACK is forwarded over, 200 OK, ACK. Here's where we can see that the call is going to be getting put on hold right there. We send back 100 trying, everything else. So I'm not going to run through this. We've already talked about it a couple times on the video, but you can see everything in order here. And if you have any feedback, I'd love it. Please go ahead and give me some feedback. Anything that you want to see me doing differently in the videos or whatever it might be, topics you want me to cover, so on and so forth. But that's the end of this video. I'm going to go ahead and post it here relatively soon. And later on, we'll move on to even more complex stuff, such as transferring calls. But I think that this one here laid some pretty good groundwork for talking about bringing in more parties and bringing in media resources and stuff like that.